Welcome to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast, hosted by Craig Phillips and Jeff Torrey. Visit us at fantasyfootballprofit.com. And now your hosts, Craig and
Welcome
Jeff.
everyone to the Fantasy Football Profit Podcast. I'm Craig Phillips, joined as always by Jeff Torrey, and today we're talking overvalued players. Last week we did our top 5 undervalued, which, that's people don't really get too upset about undervalued. You're just talking about players you like and they're lower than they should. But I have a feeling, Jeff, overvalued, we might hit a nerve on a couple.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
This is the part where we get a little more negative finally, and we're going to name somebody's favorite player, something that they really like for next year, and it's going to maybe not go over too well, but I'm fully expecting it. I can think of a couple names already on my list that will get that kind of treatment, but hey, we're just saying as of right now, we think these guys are overvalued for where their rank is. I'm not saying they're bad players. Like this is all about relative value to where you're getting them. A lot of these guys, pretty much every single one of these guys on the list, I would gladly take on my team. I just don't want to get them on my team for where they're going in the draft. It's just a little bit too early where they're getting ranked and where they'll go in the draft. I'd take them on my team if they fell basically around, let's say, something like that for the most part. So how about we jump into this? Let's go 5-1, Jeff. Who do you have number 5?
Number 5, I have someone that I'm not sure if you're going to really agree with me on, but I am actually going with your boy Allen Robinson. So first of all, the reason I'm doing this is because he is currently on some lists ranked as high as wide receiver 8. I think that is just far too high. And another reason why is I didn't really see Trubisky get any better. And last year, even when he had his crazy year in 2015 with Jacksonville, when he had 1,400 yards, 14 touchdowns, went wild, he was targeted 151 times, a ridiculous amount, right? Last year, he was targeted more, 154, and he still did not climb into that top 10 wide receiver discussion. He was number 12, so he did have a very good year. But if you're drafting him as your wide receiver 1, I think you're looking for some sort of jump that is just not going to happen, and I think it's mostly because of the QB situation. I don't think they're getting rid of Trubisky this year, so I have to believe that 154 targets will not go up. So I think that his production, more than likely, if it goes anywhere, will go down.
I agree, actually.
Oh, no kidding.
I like Allen Robinson. I do. I like. This is what the list is. This is going to show what this list is. I like Allen Robinson as a player. I loved him last year. I was 10 spots higher on him, I believe, than anybody else. And in the preseason, that still ended up being not high enough. But he is my number 4 player on my list here. He's number 4 for me because it's too high. It's just too high. Right now on Fantasy Pros, he's overall consensus number 12. So that puts him as the last wide receiver 1 in 12-team leagues. And that's just too much for me. And I as much as a lot of this is not even Robinson. It is, like you said, it's Trubisky, who maybe Trubisky takes a step. Maybe there's something that we're not seeing, but it hasn't been shown yet from Trubisky. And teams seem to have figured him out. And I can't see Robinson being a wide receiver 1. Maybe he comes close to, I don't know. But the problem is he's just not going to win you a league as your wide receiver 1. You need him as your 2 at the worst. You can't have him as your wide receiver 1. You cannot win. You can't win a championship with Allen Robinson as your wide receiver 1. It just won't happen. I'll just go out and say that. Can't happen. He as good as he could be good. You just need him as your 2, not your 1. You won't win with that. So yeah, Allen Robinson's my number 4. Some of these ranks, man, they're just too much. It's too high for him. I'd rather have these lower guys that could break out, because I think we know what Robinson pretty much is, but Sutton or A.J. Brown, even Juju, I think go higher. There's players down here, Cooper Kupp, that to me have more potential, a lot more potential than Allen Robinson. Calvin Ridley even going down the list, and DK Metcalf, and for me even like Stephon Diggs. There's just a lot of guys that have a lot of potential, and they could easily bypass Robinson. So I'd rather have them. So there we go. Allen Robinson, number 4 for me. So let's see here. So we got your 5, my 4. I guess I'll go my 5 then. We'll see what we got here. So I guess this is my early trend on this, is actually picking players I like. But I don't like where they're being ranked, and I had to go DJ Moore. It really actually pained me to put him on this list. It really did. But on Fantasy Pros right now, he's 10th overall consensus. He's as high as 7th. And I think Moore can be good. I like the player I have, but I mean, 10th just seems too much, especially with just an uncertain Cam Newton situation right now. We don't know how healthy he is, and if he is healthy, how good he's going to be. Something about this just worries me with DJ Moore, where it's just, I feel like we're just jumping him up too much too soon, where I'm not sure he's even going to be better than like the Calvin Ridley, especially Cooper. Is DJ Moore 8 spots better than Cooper Kupp?
Right. Cooper Kupp, I have him on my undervalued list, so I don't think so.
No. So DJ Moore is just, I really like the player, but I don't like this spot. 10th. So he made number 5 for me on the list this week. So I don't know. What do you think about Moore there?
No, actually, yeah, I like that pick. I like the talent. I do. I'm kind of on your bandwagon as far as. It made
it hard for me on this one. I like him, but it's too much. It's just too high.
Yeah, I think it is, and I don't know what that offense is really going to look like. But he still performed decently well last year, even with not a whole lot to work with as far as QB and everything like that. So I didn't put him on this list, but I get where you're going. He was kind of on the short list.
All right, so I got my 5 and 4. Your 5. Let's go to your number 4 on the list.
My number 4. So this one's going to kind of split because he is all over the board as I'm finding out. I think some people do have him accurately ranked, but when I was making my list, I actually found where he was ranked as running back 17th, and that was David Montgomery. I've seen that, and also I've seen him ranked, as far as like almost 30, and I was like, okay, that makes sense to me. But David Montgomery, I know that he was kind of everyone's darling, and I'm just going to assume that he was ranked 17th right now at running back because this is why I got so, I had to put him on the list. He just, they had a decent line. He just didn't live up to the hype of what he could do. They do have a lot of weapons, and Trubisky himself runs the ball. So I don't see necessarily a huge improvement, especially when his yards per average wasn't anything special to write home about. I think it was 3.7 last year. So if you're looking at him to be that running back number 2, I don't like it. I think there's other guys underneath him, including, at 17, you would have Le'Veon Bell, Kerryon Johnson, Devin Singletary, Marlon Mack. There's a lot of other guys I would much rather have than him. But like I said, that one's going to be very dependent on what list you're looking at because there's a wide gap between what people think about him.
Yeah, I see him as high as 17th, as low as 32. So I think consensus he's mid-20s. But okay. that's still I don't want him. I didn't see anything from him honestly last year. I didn't see it. I think he's one of these guys that you might think he's going to do something for a couple of years and then he just fades away and never did anything. There's guys that shoot. I'm trying to think of names here. Remember Sean Green back in the day? Sean Green,
yeah, Iowa product.
Every year you're thinking, okay, this is where Sean Green. He wasn't the first round pick kind of a thing, but he's always on the radar in fantasy. He's going to do something. He never did. And I think David Montgomery, we're going to have a couple years of this maybe, and he's never going to do anything. I just didn't see the talent there. He's fine. I guess he's okay, but when the defense doesn't need to respect the quarterback, he really can't do anything. And that's going to hurt him. And honestly, running back once you get in the middle tiers of running backs, it really is kind of, there's a lot more guys that are just as good as him. Probably if you put him in the situation, they'd be just as good. They just don't get a chance. There's so many running backs like that are just they're look at Raheem Mostert. This guy was cut from how many teams? And then he all of a sudden can do something. He gets in the right situation. That's the thing. If you're in the right situation, a lot of these guys can be good. David Montgomery probably could be good in the right situation, but there's other situations there's no chance. And I just feel like this is one of them. And there's just no one respects Trubisky. So Montgomery's never going to get any room, and it's just not going to turn out well. So I'm completely on board with David Montgomery being on this list. So let's see here. He got my 5, your 4, my 5, your 4. Let's go my number 3. Here we go. So I put a running back here. This is my first of 2 running backs I have on my list today. So I am actually, and people might even not agree with me because he's not that highly ranked. Some places he can be. I actually went James Conner.
Doubling down.
I'm telling you, I don't think he has it at all. He's 23rd on Fantasy Pros, which isn't even, that's not crazy. He's as high as 15th. Honestly, I just don't think he's that good. I'm telling you, I don't know. I mean, he didn't impress me last year when he did play. I didn't think he just didn't look good to me. I think you could get somebody else in there and they'd be in a much better situation. I mean, he looked really good the year filling in for, when Bell wasn't there, but even then he was good, but he wasn't amazing. And he gets banged up a lot. I'm not on board with James Conner. I don't want James Conner on my team. And I don't know if they're going to draft somebody. I don't know what's going to. I don't think it's Jalen Samuels or anything like that, or Benny Snell. I don't think those really guys maybe will be able to take over the job. I just don't necessarily think they're that much worse than him either. But I think maybe I could see them drafting somebody. And I'm just not on board with James Conner. I might be wrong, but I'm not on board with him. I'm not. He's my number 3. So.
Yeah,
others might even undervalue. Nobody say he's undervalued, but I'm not there at all.
Yeah, I'm not going to fight you on that one. Only because he didn't make my list. Just because if you were going to rank him 23rd, say you're hitting kind of near the end of guaranteed carries. So I didn't, but I everything you said is true. I mean, he underperformed, especially on a team that desperately needed to be able to run the ball. He got hurt. Yeah, there wasn't a whole. I mean, once again, Pittsburgh's offense was a dumpster fire last year, but there wasn't a whole lot to bring, positive to bring back from that.
I think he's another guy, and I just don't.
And like you said, it's very true. They could just move on from him. Like they could draft someone in a later round and still give more carries to that guy. Yep. They don't have that much invested in him.
All right, let's see number 3 for you.
Number 3 for me is the only QB that's going to show up on my list. And this one is, he showed as high as number 3, and that's really why he showed up on my list as well, and that is Jameis Winston. Now, look, people are probably going to take a little bit offense of this one just because they're going to say, Jameis Winston put up some major games. I picked him up, and he was wonderful. He has a lot of weapons, wide receiver-wise, Mike Evans, Godwin, all that good stuff. They can't run the ball. I used a lot of these same things when I was talking about streaming him. But if you're talking about putting some real draft capital into the guy and picking him as the 3rd QB or even in the top 5, I think that is absolutely crazy because we don't know what is going to happen. We don't know if he's going to get benched. And even so, if you just look at his numbers, I mean, last year he ranked as the 5th best quarterback. He had a monster year. He had 33 touchdowns. He had over 5,000 yards. All of which was by far his best, right? And even with all that, he threw 30 interceptions. So I see one of 2 things happening. Either he continues that and they cannot win the game because he's turning the ball over too much, and that is what leads to such high yard production and touchdown production, or they try to change his game, which all of that will fall apart, I think. So I think he's way too volatile to draft in the top 5 as far as a QB goes. And there's so many other guys that you can plug into that situation that could be just as good on a week-to-week basis. So Jameis Winston, I think people are just because they can't run the ball, because he throws so much, they're kind of amping him up, but I just don't see it. I think that is I just think it's a bad way to waste draft capital.
Oh yeah, I'm on board. I didn't put him on my list, but he was the one QB I considered. And it's all about, it's where you're drafting him. Because I would take Jameis on a streaming quarterback basis, definitely. But I'm not going to get him as my guy and have to actually spend anything to get him. There's no way. But, I mean, I don't see any scenario where Jameis has the same kind of leash he had last year, where 30 picks. He's not going to be able to get to 30 picks this year. There's no way. They will not let him get to 30 picks. He will get, if this is happening again, he's out. He's not playing. He's just not going to. Bruce Arians isn't going to let that happen. There's no way he can get to that level. He has to be a lot better. And if he's not, and you know what we've seen from Jameis, this is last year was honestly nothing new from Jameis. It was just he was able to do it over the course of a season. How many times have we seen it? Like when him and Ryan Fitzpatrick were, changing over the job every week. Jameis would be just absolutely great for short periods of time, and then he'd go and throw the 4 interception game. And that's just Jameis, I think. I see no reason to draft Jameis Winston right now over Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers and Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan. Why would you draft him over those guys? I mean, when you can go get one of those guys I just named as like the end of a draft right now, when Aaron Rodgers is number 10, yeah, I know he hasn't been Aaron Rodgers. You think, but if you get Aaron Rodgers as the 10th quarterback and you don't have to pay anything, I'd much rather do that than get Jameis. Makes no sense to me. So,
yeah, I mean, all his numbers are just really hyped up too. Like,
yeah,
I mean, it really is crazy. He had 626, passing attempts last year. His best before that was 535, like almost 100 less, and that was his second best, and that was his rookie year.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I don't see a world where he turns into a top 5 performance.
All right, let's go my number 2. Yeah, let's go my number 2 here. So this is where I think I start to get some. I mean, I probably have some pushback elsewhere, but this is where I really think I've noticed some fans of this guy, and you know what? I can't buy in. I need more. So I went Devante Parker, and he had a good season. 72 catches, 1,200 yards, 9 touchdowns. But honestly, it just didn't feel real to me. I don't know. We've seen enough Devante Parker before this where he just wasn't getting it done. Yeah, and he finally does something, which is, I guess, what you think a wide receiver is going to do. But eventually, once they're this talented, but you know what? I'm not on board. There was only 4 100-yard games. He only had one game over 7 catches, and that was the final one. When none of this happened until Preston Williams went down, whatever his name is. Until he went down, Devante Parker wasn't doing anything. And I have a feeling with Preston Williams back, they're not just going to be they're not going to play like they did at the end of the season where they just didn't care anymore and they just threw it around all the time. They're going to probably start the year a little different. And Devante Parker, I can't get on board with him as my wide receiver 2 and a high wide receiver 2 at that. I mean, he's ranked as high as 11th on some boards. That's too high. So Devante Parker, my number 2 most overvalued player. Again, I would take Devante Parker on my team, but not as a wide receiver 2. I feel like you're just asking for trouble, and he's my number 2 overvalued player.
I could not agree more, to the point that I put him number 1.
All right, yeah.
And I mean, on top of that too, I mean, he did have a very good year. It was his breakout year. We always knew that he has talent, but also we don't know what's going to happen with Dolphins, this upcoming year. I mean, Fitzpatrick should probably be there, but who knows if, halfway through the year, because they probably won't be very good. If they start their rookie, you don't know what that's going to do to him. We don't even know if he can sustain this. I mean, he didn't do this until 5 years in. So, and you made a lot of good points as well about, Williams coming back and just the very strange nature of how bad they were and what they ended up doing. I just don't see him repeating that.
No, I can't see it. And I would take the chance on him if he was later. It's just, this is too much. Right now he's ranked ahead of Cooper Kupp. Why? What are people for? You really opened my eyes at Cooper Kupp last week again too. It's like, his numbers were great, especially coming off an ACL injury. How would you draft Parker over Cooper Kupp, over Stephon Diggs, over, those guys? I can't do it. And there's just no basis for me to do that. And so he's going to fall. He's my number 2, your number 1. So I guess let's go to your number 2 and then my number 1, finish this list off.
All right. My number 2 is someone that pains me. It really does. This is the one that pained me to put him on here. I absolutely love the guy, but what is happening to this team and what I think that will do to his role makes me believe that Keenan Allen is my number 2. And right now, no surprise. I mean, right now he is going, just outside the top 10. So he's wide receiver 13, I've seen in a lot of different places. Last year, he had 104 receptions for 1,200 yards, 6 touchdowns. He's never been a high touchdown producer. But he has always been incredibly consistent at how many times he catches the ball, which leads him to a lot of yardage, which obviously turns him into a PPR darling and just a safe floor player for standard scoring. But Phillip Rivers is not there anymore. And I know that he didn't really look all that great last year, but even, while saying that, Keenan Allen was targeted 149 times and caught the ball 104 of them. Like, he has been, in the last 3 years, when he actually played a full 16-game schedule, this is how many times he was targeted each time. And you tell me that if you have Tyrod Taylor, or if you get someone other than maybe Tom Brady would be the only one that I would be like, okay, maybe I'll change this up because he can be his Edelman or something. I just don't see him being able to catch the quantity. So last 3 years, targeted 159, 136, 149. Each one of those very close to catching 100 of those balls. All three of those only catching 6 touchdowns. He's never gone over 8 touchdowns. So I love this guy. I think he's one heck of a player, but you're on a team that used you incredibly well. And now you're probably moving to a quarterback that isn't going to throw the ball near as much as Phillip Rivers did, especially his way, because they might not have chemistry. And they have a ton of other targets that might be better for whatever quarterback comes in there, right? I mean, we talk about Williams and Hunter Henry, and the list goes on. Those guys are no slouches. So I could see where his numbers get hit devastatingly bad. So I think Keenan Allen is the guy for me. Even though I love him, I'm staying away because I don't know what in the world his numbers will look like.
I'm on board with this one. He didn't make my list, but I'll go my number one, and that's Austin Ekeler. And honestly,
he was probably my number 6.
Yeah. And a lot of the reasoning is I don't know what this offense is, right? Like, we don't know how this is going to play out. And so same thing that's going to happen to Keenan Allen. I don't automatically assume Austin Ekeler is just going to be great if Melvin Gordon's not there, and if River, like, how can he just be? If Melvin Gordon's there, Austin Ekeler's ranked too high for sure.
Without doubt.
If Melvin Gordon's not there, I still think Austin Ekeler's ranked too high because I don't think Austin Ekeler becomes the every down back, which a lot of people seem to be just penciling him in. But when has Austin Ekeler ever shown that he could be the every down back? He's been given. He had a couple chances, a couple games where he was supposed to be that guy. And it did not happen. It just did not happen. And I don't know if Gordon leaves, do they bring somebody else in, or is it just Justin Jackson? And maybe Justin Jackson will play, and Austin Ekeler's not going to get all the work. But either way, who's this quarterback going to be? How are they going to? Is he actually going to be any good? I mean, this going to be a big. It's like it depends on who they bring in. This is where it all changes. If they bring somebody in who can play, obviously, we're going to rethink our rankings on these guys and how we feel about them. But if it's a rookie, if it's just not a proven guy, how can you? I mean, Austin Ekeler right now on Fantasy Pros, he is the 14th overall consensus running back, and this is just standard. This isn't PPR; it's just standard. 14th overall, and he's as high as 6th in the ranks in some boards. 6th, Austin Ekeler. I can't do that. I mean, sorry. I've seen enough from Austin Ekeler. He's a good player, but he's not that. He's not borderline running back 1 material. And we need to see more from this team. But as we think it's going to be right now, it's just I would stay away. Like,
yeah, I mean, I'll double down on that one too. I didn't feel like putting both of them on here, and but at the same time, he was. I mean, how many? Okay, where do you think he ranked last year as far as running backs being targeted for the pass?
Not even sure. Where would he be?
He was only behind one person, and that person was Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, okay.
So he was targeted 108 times as a running back.
And that's where he jumped up in these ranks, and that's Phillip Rivers looking for him. So is that going to change? I don't know.
Right, and that was with Melvin Gordon gone half the year, right? I mean, not saying that he's not going to be targeted a lot, but I don't see a world. If Gordon's there, obviously we're already on the same page. He's not in the same realm because his numbers will get a severe hit. But we don't know what this quarterback will do, even if it hits, say, 20%, or they try to involve someone else, even if Gordon's not there. It's just, I don't know. It's a lot of production to keep going. And on top of that, he also had, over 100 carries. So he had a lot of work last year.
And this is okay. Here's what happens with Austin Ekeler. He only got double-digit carries 4 times. He had 12 and 12 in 2 of the games. He did decent. But as soon as he goes more than that, he had 17 carries, only got 66 yards out of it, and 18 carries for 60 yards, 3.3 yards per carry, 3.8 yards per carry. It's like as soon as he gets a little bit more carries, the yards per carry aren't there. He had a lot of games like that. It's just you can't be running back one material if you can't really run the ball too much, I don't see that. He's going to be good, but the value with Austin Ekeler, it feels like it's really just if you get him later and he's more of a PPR guy. This is too much for him right now. And this is where people go, if they just see the list, when we post the list on Instagram, Austin Ekeler with no context to it, they just think, oh, well, they're not going to think we hate the guy. I don't hate the guy. I don't hate the guy. I just think it's too much. He's going too high for what he should be. And
I was just say the Instagram post is going to be hilarious because we're going to have Ekeler and then Keenan Allen up there. And
some people are going to be upset, but
it's going to be bad.
It's good. It's good times. But all right, that's going to do it for this week. We're going to be off next week. We'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll get some more lists for you as we keep doing these top 5 lists as we get rolling on in the season. We're starting to once we get back, it'll be very close to free agent time. So we're going to get some free agent talk in here too. But talk to you guys in 2 weeks.